Hey guys, how's it going? So this video is going to be a little bit different than how I normally do it. I am kind of going to start doing some like a sort of vlog kind of thing where I get asked a lot of questions on Instagram, on YouTube, on a bunch of different formats, and I wanted to be able to answer those not just individually, but to those who have questions and may not want to reach out or may not want to feel like they're bothering somebody. Me personally, I never feel that way. So please go ahead and always ask questions. But regardless, I want to get into it. So, my first topic today is going to be tuning. That's something that's always asked, and I always try and ask this question or, answer these questions as best as I can. Who did you tune with? Is tuning worth it? What benefits have you gotten out of it? How much horsepower? Those are a lot of questions that are very subject. It's very hard to be able to answer that because every car is going to be different. So I can only speak on my experience and what I've experienced with other people. So I'm going to try and do my best to do that. And I'm going to try and make these as short as possible as well. We'll get into it. So what is tuning? And if you've seen some movies, you get, you see somebody open up a laptop and they're like typing in a bunch of stuff and you think it's like, it's super complicated. Now, it is. You've really got to know, how to work the software, know what variables you're changing. You got to know the car. You got to know what I actually have a buddy of mine. He does a lot of tuning, and I've asked him. I try to pick his brain because I thought about getting into it, and to him, it's like, well, it's something like this, and he tries to kind of like explain it, but I think the reason why it's kind of hard is because there's a lot of variables, and as far as the 6th gen V6 Camaro, there's a lot of variables you have to kind of deal with, and it makes it harder to be able to get everything correct. That is why I've been going with Will at Overkill, because he's very good at what he does. Yes, his time is it takes a really long time. So don't get me wrong. There's been times where I've waited, a couple months before I've got a response or I got a tune back. And the whole process can be a pain in the butt. So, I get all of you who don't want to go with Overkill and either want to go with Trifecta or want to do, the throttle response, the pedal commander, or go to your local shop. Now, the best tune is a live data tuning, and that'll always be their best one to do. But we'll get into that. Going back, the reason why I go with Will is because there is a lot of things that you need to kind of worry about, and a few of those things are, we don't just have one cam, we've got two, technically four. It's a dual overhead cam, so it's a lot that you need to kind of put in that variable. You also got the VVT, the variable valve timing. That also has to be considered on, what you're changing, and then your fuel mapping as well. The fuel in California versus the fuel in, Wisconsin versus the fuel in New York versus the fuel in Florida. And honestly, the fuel all over the world is all going to be different. So you've got to find those parameters, and it's a lot of, I don't know if it's math. It could be math. It could be just making small changes, and that's why it takes a long time. That's probably why it's so hard to do it. Could you hurt the engine? Yeah, you could. But as long as you're doing small changes and you're just kind of noticing that the car's running better or worse, and you're not pushing the car, you'll be okay. What is tuning? It's, that you've got a couple different things. There's carburetor tuning, which I'm not going to go into. Standalone ECUs or ECMs, and those are, programmable either from a shop, from a tuning house, or from, or you could do it yourself. If it were me, I would have someone else do it, just because I don't know. And do I want to learn? I would, but there's people out there with tons of experience on how to do it, and you're probably better off letting them do it. Remote tuning Overkill does that, and there's a couple other places that'll do it that use HP tuners. Will does both EFI Live, and he does HP tuners, and so a lot of shops can do a remote tune. A lot of them don't like doing it because they'd rather have the car there and be able to see live data, which brings me to dyno tuning. And dyno tuning, to be honest, is probably the best thing you can do. Only because you see live data, you see what's happening, you can make the changes in real time, see how the car's performing both in horsepower and torque, and making the small fuel adjustments to get it just right and get everything kind of all nice and settled out. But that being said, it is usually dyno tuning can be expensive. They either do it by a per hour, or a lot of shops do it per hour. And remote tuning is usually kind of like it's a per thing. They just look at your data, they make the small changes, they send it back to you, and you run the car for a while, and then you do it again. And you keep doing it until they think, okay, we've got the car where it needs to be. And you've got an afternoon, or you've got a couple months, depending on how fast they get back the they send back the tunes. So so that is like tuning. I didn't get too deep into it because that there's a ton of better people on the internet that can explain this better than I can, and you're just better off just going with them, because quite honestly, I have no idea. But what it essentially does, to make that entire thing shorter, is it changes fuel mapping, it changes timing, it changes essentially how the motor runs. Most cars are put into a more economic fuel mapping, and just to save fuel, they need to meet EPA standards and all that stuff. Tuning is a way to go around that and make your car put a little more power. You're not going to get huge gains. I've heard some people, I've got 100 plus, or something crazy. Unless that car is supercharged, you will never get 100 horsepower just by tuning. I will tell you that. You will probably get maybe 20, 25, 30. It's all depending on the fuels. I'm going to do an E85 subject as well, and I'll go more into that. But if you can do E85 tuning, and the stations are very, very sourceful around you, then I would say yes, do it. It's 100% worth it. But it's not easy to tune for it. But yeah, that's kind of tuning in a small nutshell. And like I said, there's a lot of people on the internet that can explain what tuning is. I just wanted to kind of overview it, because some people have a different idea of what tuning is and what tuning isn't and all that stuff. And, that's as far as I know what it is. So if I'm wrong, let me know. I'm probably wrong. That's okay. I'm more than happy to not be right. So, how do you tune? So how I've done it and how I've seen other people do it, you connect your computer. If you're doing live diagnostic and dyno tuning, you connect through the OBD2. This only will kind of go into OBD2 only. I don't know how OBD1 do it. I'm pretty sure they do standalones, and anything prior to that is carburetor, and I don't know that, so sorry. So yeah, you connect your computer and you bring up the software that you're going to use. I highly suggest HP Tuners, only because they are one of the biggest tuning companies out there, or tuning software companies out there. And the shop I used to work at, they always use it for everything, and it was pretty simple as far as getting credits to get into it and be able to flash the car. Credits and all that stuff, go onto their website. They will tell you what that's all about. It's not just a simple, you get the software for free and you can do any changes. You can make your changes, but you can't flash the car. That's why you have to buy the credits, and they're tied to your VIN, and that's a whole thing. But for my AutoCal guys and HP Tuner guys that did get all that stuff, I don't know the HP Tuners. I have the AutoCal and the EFI Live, so it's a little bit different. But you just plug it into your OBD2, and you'll have a little handheld. I don't have it on me, but you have a little handheld, and then you kind of scroll down, and you go to the spot where it says, you'll have your files put on there. And I'm going to make a video on how to do the AutoCal tuning. I have it. I just need to edit it together. And you just put that on there. It uploads. It flashes the car, and there's a couple steps you need to do. And it's honestly that simple. There's a couple things you need to do to make sure you don't brick your car. So it's simple, but you need to follow the steps. In which, if you go with Overkill, they give you all the steps and a piece of paper, and they send you a whole pamphlet and everything, and you should be good. As far as dyno tuning, they still do that same thing. They check all the fuel mapping and just essentially how the car's running. And they'll make all the changes right then and there, reflash the car, and then run it again, and just make the changes as it goes. Should you tune? I think you should. And the only reason why I say that, now it depends on you where you live, especially in California. They just put out a new law, which is really dumb. But regardless, if you're thinking about wanting to wake up the car a little bit, add a little extra horsepower and a little bit of torque, and run better fuel, regardless, run 91, even if it tells you not to. I've heard back and forths of, it's not worth it, the car's not tuned for it, and it's not, you're wasting money. Yeah, that is true. You are wasting money. I'm not going to lie to you. But that being said, the higher the octane, the less chance of you getting knock, and that'll just help your engine in general. And it won't stress the car a little bit. I mean, even if you don't use premium, out here it's 91. Outside of California, it's 93. I'd say use it, but I would say, yes, tune. Because it's going to the car's going to change a little bit, and this can, I can only speak for the Camaro, but I think for the rest of the car world, I think that would be the same thing. There is a big difference that you can feel, and it does wake the car up. The pedal and throttle response is much better, and I've seen, not me personally, every once in a while, I will get a MPG bump, and I'll get an MPG, it'll go down. So it's really, really up to you. It isn't cheap. Some, like I said, some places do per hour, some do in a package deal. Overkill does, I think it's like $600, but it's unlimited tuning for the life of the car, or until you let go of the car. So I think you should do it, especially if you get mods. That's the good thing about remote tuning. If you get a mod, you can just tell them what you're going to do. He'll send you an updated file, you upload it, and the car should run on a good base tune until you can get a data log and get it updated. But for those of you that want to do a dyno tune, I would say save up everything that you've got as far as, throttle body, intake, ported manifold. If you're going to do the American Racing headers, or do E85, just wait until you have everything, because again, you're going to have to put it in, and then you're going to have to get it to where you're going, and you're going to have to wait. You're going to have to do it multiple times if you don't do it all at one, in one sitting. So, Yeah, and once you put everything together and the tune, it'll just make it run better. I've heard people just disconnecting their battery and then starting the car, and there hasn't been issues. I didn't do that. I made sure I was in a tune, but only because I wanted to make sure I was getting the best out of each modification that I put on the car. So, you know, when I put the SS intake onto it, did I think I was going to get a big bump out of it? No, not really. But I knew that the car was going to be getting more air, and in turn, it was, going to make a little bit more power. But, it's a huge silicone tube, and then it's got to, go down into a small manifold. So it's only going to run as best as, what everything else down the line is. And the manifold, I think, is the one thing that kind of hinders the whole thing, because we can't put a bigger throttle body, and the manifold is small, so it once as you can get as much air as you want, but it's only going to take in whatever it can. So but everything that you can put onto the car and you tune it, you're going to get the best out of it. It's going to run better, it's going to run really good, and it's not going to run lean or rich. We'll be able to figure out where exactly that fits. The pros of tuning, like I said, you can get a lot out of it, and it gives you the ability to, upgrade to a better fuel. It gives you a better fuel map and, better horsepower, sometimes better economy. And, overall, the car just feels different. And it's something that, first people that always ask me, oh, what should I do first? I say get a tune. Don't do the intake, don't do any of that. I'd say get a tune first and see if you like it from there. Because if you don't, then you know that you need to add more stuff and continue going. But if you like it, you don't have to do the rest, and that's okay. And you can just leave it at the tune and leave it all stock and like how it runs. Now, what are the cons? Well, one, it's not cheap. It's pretty expensive. And two, if you live in California or you have to deal with smog, or at least for us, it's CARB, California passed a new law that even, let's say that you put bigger tires or, bigger wheels, and your speedometer's off, and you make a change to make the speedometer fit what the wheels are actually turning at, they will fail you for that because you modified the stock. Tuning file, and that will flag it. So that's really dumb, and that's something that we in California have to deal with. So that's something I have to deal with later when I have to smog my car. But that's something that I had prepared for. I can go back to stock essentially in a day, and then run it on a stock setting for a couple months, and then go back, and then we're good to go. But I have a way to go around that, and I'll make a video about that later. But yeah, the cons is, it's expensive, and sometimes some local shops won't touch our cars. They're just not because they don't want to, just because it's a little complicated. And some people rather just stick with 4 cylinders, tuner cars or V8s, and some V6s kind of fall in that line of, because they're easier or they're just not as complicated. But is it worth it overall? Now, I've been tuned for about, 3-4 years. I lost count. I don't remember when I tuned my car, but for me, it's always been trying to help the community and trying to figure out, what mods are worth it and what aren't doing it or doing anything. And honestly, I've seen nothing but a progression. I unfortunately did not get a dyno test before I did any of my modding, so I have no idea what my base horsepower was. But after doing essentially everything short of a supercharger, I think the stock manual car was at 275. I did the math. It was like 275, 280 with I think a maximum of 15% drivetrain loss. I think about 280, 285, something like that at the wheel, not at the crank. So after that and doing everything on the 85 full bolt on, I did 329, but to make the numbers even, 330. So it shows you that, these things do help, and it's substantial, about 50 horsepower. Now, is it worth it? And the amount of money that you spend to do all of that to get 50 horsepower more? Probably not. But a lot of my parts were secondhand, so I bought them off of somebody. So that's the only reason why, it was a little more feasible. But if you're trying to do this, as I want to try and max it out as best I can, honestly, if you really want power, just supercharge. Don't do any of the other stuff. But it's about tuning, but is it worth tuning? I would say yes. If you're trying to do something, you're trying to keep, somewhat of your warranty. A lot of tunes won't ruin your warranty. If you take it to a dealer, which I've done, what I've told the dealer when I've taken my car, I've told them, hey, if you see something weird or something's wrong, can you please let me know? And please don't flash the car. And if they ask you, oh, why? I personally just tell them, oh, I have to smog it soon, and if you flash it, then I'm not going to pass smog, and then they won't do it. But majority of the time, unless it's an actual car issue or like a ECM issue or ECU issue, they won't reflash your car. And just let them know, whatever you do to your car, as long as that's not the issue and tuning is not the problem, exhaust cracks at somewhere, or your injector seal goes out. That's not from tuning. I was gonna say fueling. That could be tuning. I was gonna say like intake. Your throttle body's not moving correctly. That could be tuning. It just I wouldn't worry too much about it, especially if you're going with somebody who knows what they're doing. And please just make sure you talk to whoever's going to tune the car if it's not, Will with Overkill, and just make sure that you're good, and you do your research first. And I didn't want this video to be super long. It's already kind of long already, but I just, there's a lot of information when it comes to tuning, and my tangents don't help either. So, but yeah, that's, I'm sure I can keep going. But those are some of the questions that I get asked, and I try and make sure that I ask those questions, or I let you guys know, so that way you guys can, you have a resource to be like, hey, is it worth it? To me, to a point. Depends on what you're trying to get after. If you're trying to be the fastest V6 Camaro out there, don't do it. Well, do it, but get a supercharger, get it tuned as best as you can, and do the works to get it ready for that. But if you're trying to just pep the car out, hang out with some friends, go on some canyon cruises, and just go and enjoy yourself and enjoy the car, but without like having to put a blower onto it and think that you're going to blow it up, you're going to spend close to $1,000, give or take, after you do everything, or if not more, probably $2,000 with tuning, intake, manifold, the intake manifold, the throttle body, downpipes, all that stuff. It's not cheap, but do I love how the car is running right now? Of course. So I would recommend it. So that's just tuning, how I see it. And hopefully you guys learned something. If not, I'm sorry. Again, I am not a tuning person. I just know what I know from experience and what I've dealt with as far as doing it with my car, and the things I needed to do to get it to work, or to make it work, and the time I had to wait for. But again, just make sure that, when you first tune your car, take it easy, make sure the car's running okay. Don't be slamming it on the first thing. The car needs to actually still learn, it needs to readjust the fuel mapping regardless to make sure, that it's going to run at its peak, and you're not going to hurt something, and, you're out of an engine or you're out of a car or what have you. So, yeah, down below, leave me a comment of, what you think or what I missed. I didn't go into the chips because I don't believe in those. Chip tuning is not worth doing it. They're just, they don't do anything really. So go find a remote tuner, go find a dyno tuner, and do it that way. What do you guys want me to talk about? I do want to talk about E85. I want to talk about intakes, and I want to talk about, oils, and I want to talk about tires and wheels and brakes, and just kind of get into what, like I said, I've done a lot of things to the car, and, I get asked these questions a lot, and I feel like they're great topics for those who want to hear about it. So if you're not sick of my voice yet, cool, and I hope you don't get sick of it. But I have more videos coming up, and I'm going to be doing these at least, maybe once a month, twice a month. I don't know. I'll just, when I get the chance to record them, I'll throw them up. So, but I appreciate everybody commenting, sending me questions, or if they've had issues with their car. I'm more than happy to help. Again, add me on Instagram. I'm on the V6 group on Facebook, and you can hit me up on Twitter as well. So feel free to ask any questions. I'm more than happy to help you out, and try and lead you in the right direction. So yeah, that's all I got. Again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing. To everybody that has gotten me to almost 300 subscribers. It's really cool to see it starting to grow a little bit. And I don't know what else to do. I'm thinking about just kind of like I don't know, doing some car reviews maybe. I don't know. I don't want to be the same typical things that are going on. I'd rather do actual information. But if you guys want me to give you my thoughts on certain videos or something like that, send them my way. I'm more than happy to show you guys what I think, and we'll go from there. So, the usual stuff, like, subscribe, share this with somebody who's got questions, and or share any of the videos that I've got. Then hopefully I'm able to help them out. So until next time, guys, thank you so much again for all the support, and we'll see you guys on the next one.